We got a couple people that all joined. We have Oscar, Boaz, and Alex join in.
Which is, I think we're still under our. Oh no,
Yeah,
there's someone
it's about the
I
time.
haven't seen from name wise.
Yeah, just so everybody knows, community meetings, everything we talk about, it's going to go on YouTube for people to, if they're missing it, if they're in Japan or India or stuff like that. So just an FYI. Being, you're going to be famous on YouTube. Boaz, give me your best
Finally,
reaction
finally.
video, reaction face.
It's like, oh my God, I didn't realize this is live and being recorded. But
Yeah. You got to break out your
wow.
guitar now.
Yeah, that's what, and then it looks like, oh my God, that mess. This is so exciting. I already saw some, some people who are out of Red Hat, active on the community, already giving advice to other folks. That is so exciting.
Yeah, I think there's a bunch of pull requests too already. I have a bunch of issues I need to send. I was just a little lazy yesterday, but I'm not going to be the documentation guy for a while.
I mean, looking at the stats of our main StackRox repo, it's kind of impressive that we gathered that much traction. That's actually more than I expected, to be honest.
All organic too, right? I mean,
Yes,
StackRox.io with a blog that hadn't pushed out a blog in 6 months, so it's pretty cool. All right, let's give it one more minute, and then we'll kick it off. It's a light agenda. First one, bring all of your feedback, and we're gonna get going soon. Boaz, I'm sure you have a bunch of feedback.
You know my feedback.
Yeah.
That was a hidden slide there.
Nice.
I'm loving it if people didn't get that.
We have a slide presentation today, pretty quick. We're not going to bore you to death with any crazy slides. There's like 8 slides, but in future meetings, there's going to be a running doc that we'll use just to make sure that we're keeping track of things as we go along and documenting it all. So I'll be out in the public. It'll all be on YouTube as well. If you have any questions, you can always join the Slack channel. Cool. Matthias, do you want to kick it off? Share the slide deck, and I'll say my 2 cents as I get sicker by the minute.
Sure. Would you mind handing me the permission to do that?
Oh, yeah, you handed away the power.
Yes, I did.
Hey, Oscar, how's it going? Yeah, I will. 1 second when I can find the participant window. Da-da. All right, all you.
So, thank you. So let's see if I can find my slide. That one. So I would like to welcome everyone again to the community meeting. For today, we have a small little slide set. That's what Michael already said. So we want you to meet the team. So we have a quick overview as well as meeting the code of conduct. And then we're doing a quick round of release updates and basically some questions that we have facing towards the community. And of course, there will be some time for an open forum and questions, of course. So if anyone got some questions, please feel free to ask us. That's why we're here. So to give you an idea of what StackRox is or who we are, we are comprised currently of 8 teams, or at least 8 teams in the main engineering parts of the organization, which is we have automation and infra, which is the team that is related to, as the name says, automation and infrastructure. We have team collector, which collects and monitors info about container runtime and network activity. And these infos are then collected at another point in the platform. Then we have core workflows, which is the team that takes care of policy management, reports, notifiers, and integrations. So to give you an idea of that. Then we have, of course, someone that takes care of all things database or scanner. So the scanner is actually the part that receives, besides other things, does image scanning and dependencies. So this is the part that actually scans all of the Docker images for known vulnerabilities. That is the team data shepherds or data core. And then we have 3 teams that are doing also development or mostly development, which is Team Draco, which are besides other things doing taking care of the operator and Helm. We have Team Maple, which are concerned with the network graph and sensor network optimizations. And we have Team Merlin, which are doing all things identity authentication and command line interfaces, as well as image signing. And then last but not least, we have the UI team, the Webpack. So these are the people that are actually building the nice UI that everyone is using on a day-to-day basis. So just to give you an idea of which parts of the team you might be able to, or which people you might encounter if you work with us, if you open issues. These are roughly the areas of responsibility that you might expect. So speaking of issues and interaction with us, of course, ideally, everything should be working flawlessly and there shouldn't be any problems. But it might as well happen that you encounter issues, which is what the COC is for. And spoiler, I'm part of the COC also. So in general, if you have any problem, if you don't feel welcome, if you have the feeling that there is an issue that might need some settling, or if you don't feel welcomed in our project, feel free to contact the COC. The COC is reachable under a group email, but you can also reach every individual member of us. So we're currently 3 people, which are Oscar, Alex, and myself. Both of the other members are on the call, so maybe to not stretch this any further and give you a little bit of a different voice to listen to. Maybe to start the introduction, I'm Matthias. I've been with the project for since January last year. And yeah, besides doing community meetings and COC, I'm also doing a little bit of core workflow development and core development. Alex, maybe you want to introduce yourself as well?
Sure thing. I joined the project before its acquisition by Red Hat a little bit more than a year ago, almost 1.5. I'm coming from the Apache Mesos community or Apache Mesos ecosystem, which is collapsing under the pressure of history. And I'm leading the Merlin team, and I feel responsible for authentication of and authorization of our product. I think that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Oscar, the mic is yours.
Okay. Hi, my name is Oscar. I am one of the members of the Code of Conduct Committee. I work on the core workflows team. I'm, I believe, the only member of the Code of Conduct that's stateside. So we have full coverage of all of the hours of the day, I think. Yeah, I joined StackRox pretty soon after acquisition. I think that's all I have to say.
Thanks.
Hey, I'll just throw my 2 cents in there. Hey, everybody, Mike Foster. I'm one of the other community managers as well. Not on any team. I'm just here to take all the cool stuff that you guys do and show people how to deploy it and how to do, how to secure their clusters. So if you have any questions, Slack channel, hashtag StackRox in the CNCF Slack channel. I'm there. I'll be answering them until Kingdom Come, I guess. All right. Tias, on to the next one.
Yeah, sure. So at this point, we are more or less done with the broader introduction of the team. Are there any questions so far? Anything anyone want to add or discuss? We're open for a discussion right now before we go into more of a forum version, or more before we enter the forum part of today's meeting.
I don't have a question, but maybe I do have a suggestion. Since it's the first community meeting, maybe we can just complete the full round of introductions. I see at least one face on the call that I don't know, and I would like to get to know everyone who I don't know. What do you folks think?
I'm assuming who exactly are you talking about? Chris?
Could be me. Yeah.
Should be you, exactly.
One sneaking in. Yeah. So I'm Chris Malvis. I'm a senior architect in the North American public sector side. So I focus on delivery basically with all of our products, but obviously a lot of OpenShift. You may have also possibly seen my name. I did run what we call in the public sector like a hackathon with ACS that really was focusing on FIPS mode. So I had a lot of help with that from Jim Scott and Chris Porter as well. They were kind of some of the key players there that helped kind of throw that together. So yeah, I just really enjoyed working with the ACS team when we ran that hackathon a few months ago. So I've just really been trying to get more involved. And everyone's very, very receptive of what are you seeing out in the field, right? What the consultants say. So yeah, trying to kind of hear, listen, provide some feedback as well as we move forward. So super happy that these things are occurring. So really cool.
Great to have you joining, Chris.
Yeah, we don't we won't make the no names or the people who aren't showing themselves, introduce themselves, but you're more than welcome to come on. I see you there, Kirsten and Gavin. It's good to see you.
Hello.
Hey. I think it's a good time, right? StackRox is right in the middle of East Coast lunch, so it's awesome.
That's true.
All right, Matthias, no more Q&As? Anyways, questions anytime. You can always throw them in the chat, and either a Slack chat or on GitHub as well. Happy to answer them.
Absolutely. And as this is our first official community meeting, we don't really have any points to take up on from the last meeting. In terms of release updates and previews, there is nothing coming up that would be, so at least we don't have anything big to announce besides maybe the fact that we went open source on April 1st. But this might change in the future. So looking at what we're doing right now is let's maybe start let's talk about some of the things that we thought of. I mean, we tried to think of everything pre-launch, but of course, as always, you can't think of anything or everything basically. So the first interesting question for us would be are there any community preferences? Looking at the current participants, I guess most of us are familiar with Slack. We are currently using a dedicated Slack channel in the CNCF. Oh, we're currently using a dedicated channel #StackRox in the CNCF Slack. But that's just a starting point. So if anyone is interested in another tool or another platform, please let us know. That's what we're sticking with right now. Any active feedback on that? Anyone really doesn't want to use Slack or doesn't feel yeah, doesn't feel like using Slack. All
I
right.
think one thought that I have is that I don't think there are a lot of ACS engineers on that Slack, and I wonder if this is something, if it's because this CNCF Slack channel is a natural obstacle for whatever reason, and they would like to address, or just it's the marketing issue, so not everyone knows about that Slack. Maybe another mechanism would be a little bit more helpful to have new people join.
I'll say, I think I'm personally of the opinion that I'm fine with there being, I guess, friction between getting access to all of the engineers at StackRox, because I don't think all of them will necessarily want to be involved in open source, and it'd be better if they were looped in after like a vetting process of issues or questions, and treated as sort of like a repository of information rather than a first line. So I think it's fine that not everyone in StackRox is in the CNCF Slack channel. That being said, I would also be happy to be included in the CNCF Slack channel, and I'm not. So maybe we could have an internal message to some of the engineers in one of the larger Slack channels in the StackRox Slack, giving instructions on how to join that so that people can join if they so choose.
Yeah, let me write that down. Let me take that with me. I'm happy to provide a message in the internal Slack, letting people know how that this exists and how to join it.
It's interesting to note there's already 128 members on that channel. It's quite a lot.
That's true, yeah.
And
so
not everyone is from Red Hat for sure. So that's a really good sign.
I think the CNCF Slack is used quite a lot also for official how's it called? For official conferences. So the conference Slack, I guess that might be one of the reasons, because I think the StackRox channel in the CNCF Slack is a little bit older, so it wasn't created in the time leading up to open sourcing, or at least not right before. At least not right before before the open sourcing.
Gotcha.
Foster, any things you want to add? I think you're on mute.
Oh, I definitely am. If you look at most of the open source projects, they're typically on, if they're Kubernetes native, they're going to be on Kubernetes or on CNCF Slack. Ease of friction. It also makes it easy to enforce community standards. And Alex, trust me, it's friction for a specific group, right? But it was a choice too, because it does have a big user base. It's one of the biggest Slack channels out there. So unless we make a huge push towards something like a Discord type, I think for now, while we grow the user base, it works. Good.
All right.
All right. Speaking of which, as I'm tracking all this stuff, the presentation's great and all. Do we want to have like a couple slides every month, but then have a Google Doc that just tracks our, who's on the call, shareable? I'll version control and save it just to make sure nobody goes in and screws around with it or anything like that. Does that work for everybody?
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Perfect. I'll get that set up for next meeting. And I actually put this in here too. The other thing is we had a couple of comments about documentation, specifically that a lot of our documentation leads to the Advanced Cluster Security documentation. Well, it is completely free and open to use for ACS, and a lot of the workflows are the exact same. It's the deployment that I think is slightly different. So I definitely think that there needs to be a very strict README that says, here's how you deploy on Kubernetes. And then maybe we say, okay, if you're going to go on OpenShift, these docs will be fine for you. Looking into it, I think that eventually, if everybody is good with it, we do want separate docs.
I think there might be some overhead, or at least there might be some work involved in making sure that we get the processes in place that if we have breaking changes, both pages or both versions are getting updated. So it might be a good idea to look into how we split these documentations. But in general, I think it might be a good idea to have at least different branded, or I mean, the deployment is different for the open source version in some parts, and I guess at least these parts we should document well. We could even go as far as taking the DevDocs repo and trying and thinking about just generating a static site out of that, which, because it's already holding quite a lot of our developer documentation.
Yeah, like I think you could do like an MK docs deployment structure or something, very easy on GitHub, and then that's pretty much all you need. Everything else is okay. You have it set up. You know, here's how to use it. Anyways, I'll look into it. I'll see how much overhead there is. Leave that one with me for now, and I'll have some feedback for you next month.
Yeah. Speaking of things that we have open, we have actually our first open GitHub issue, which is that the reporter is having some smaller troubles with our email reporting. Parts of the report we could already verify and are already actively tracking in an internal issue. The second part, so the main problem seems to be that reports are not including vulnerabilities, even if the report is configured to do so. And our current state in that is we're trying to reproduce that and then come up with an update for the reporter. So this is the current state. We have already communicated that, or I've already updated the ticket before this meeting to inform the reporter of that. And besides that, we don't have any feature requests right now. But I guess that might change in the future, especially when we look at how many people seem to be interested in the repo. So at least that's the questions that we had to any participants from our side. Maybe as an open forum, is there any topic any of you would like to discuss or run by us?
There's actually one if nobody else has a point to bring forward.
I was going to mention what you just kind of talked about was the documentation. Was I was on just StackRox the other day, just on the StackRox website, trying to find if there are separate docs. So yeah, it sounds like that's being addressed. The other thing I noticed too is I noticed that the documentation that links to on the StackRox website links to 368 and not 369. So I wasn't sure how that was being linked essentially from the StackRox site back to the docs.openshift site for the official docs.
Yeah, that is probably just a mistype, or because 369 got updated, but that's a quick fix. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's a good point too, because you're going to want it to be versioned depending on what people are deploying. Good point. Yeah, so I definitely think that in terms of the website and the docs, there should be something specific that calls out the repo to say, here's how you deploy, and then here's the documentation for after you get started. So definitely going to work on that workflow. That's a huge one, especially as more and more people are going to start using the project. Thanks, Chris.
No problem.
It's always documentation, right? At least it's not DNS this time.
It's the hardest part about any project. It's not doing it. It's writing the documentation to match it, to do it correctly, and repeat it always.
So I have an adjacent question, which I might have asked, which I've actually asked in a different form, but I'm not sure where we landed with that. Is so how are people expected to deploy the open source? So we're pointing them to docs, but where are the binaries? Is everyone expected to build their own, or will the project create binaries on some cadence so it's easier for people to deploy?
We have a public QAIO organization where we publish the open source builds. And we are currently working on updating the deployment commands and trying or seeing if we can find a way that the open source version automatically pulls their Docker images from this public QAIO organization.
Okay. So it's publishing our images on that QAIO.
Yes. We have StackRox branded, a set of StackRox branded Docker images that are published to QAIO/StackRox-IO. And that is I think, let me check. StackRox.
Yeah, actually, with Tiz, that's a good reminder to see if we can track down who has access to StackRox for Quay, right? I think it might be Chris Porter, actually. So let me ping him.
Yeah. So that's also something that there is obviously some workarounds and some provisional things right now. But these are things that we plan on ironing out. But thanks for reminding us about that and raising that topic.
I wasn't sure if we had, like, if RoxCDL was a binary, or maybe my use of binaries was too strict. So yeah, it's container images, Helm charts. Operator is available for OpenShift. Theoretically, operator could be made available for container, for Kubernetes, if that's something the project wants to work on.
That'd be a good issue. Feature request.
Yeah. Already, so let me take that with me. Let's see if we maybe open an issue about that and look into it. But that's also a very good idea to ease in. I mean, our goal in open sourcing, of course, was to lower the barrier of entry, and having operators. I mean, operators are really comfortable to use, so it might be, yeah.
The operator experience in OpenShift is so easy. It literally takes minutes. Once you've done it first, one time, repeat and rinse is so easy. And the first time itself, it wasn't that hard either. It's just follow the documentation just line by line.
That's always good to hear. It's funny because when we launched, well, there was one or two repos, because we have a bunch of repos, right, that needed to be flipped to be fully open source technically. And everybody who deploys on OpenShift had almost zero complaints, because it was just, oh, operator, here, go install. And it was the Starcast XCasts that just had a little bit of issue. There was one thing, is if you use the deploy script, this is like a very small thing, but if you use a deploy script, typically you have the output at the bottom after all of the charts are deployed that says, like, here's the password, here's everything you need to get logged in. It's at the top. You have to scroll all the way back up if you're in terminal. Just something small, but it's one of those things that everybody always assumes, like when you run a Helm chart, the bottom, like there's the output. It's not there. I can create a little issue.
Yeah, I think I think we're even aware of, at least partly aware of that, because we're also piping that password. The deploy script also creates a password file, but you need to know about that. And I think we mentioned that somewhere. But as usual, documentation can always be more clear and more concise, right?
Yeah, I was. I'll submit my README later. I was working on that last night. So yeah, for sure, it's there, and it, like I just speed through the docs. I don't actually read it, right? I'm going to spend more time than I need to. So yeah, little things like that. Also, I mean, we recommend using Helm anyways. Helm is pretty straightforward to deploy with it, right? Yeah, you can always use some good old bash script. And the fact that RoxCTL is in a Docker container too makes it infinitely easier.
I was actually surprised by seeing that, or at least most of the discussion that I saw of people having questions revolving around the deployment process, most of them were either using RoxScuttle or the deployment scripts. So there might be some room for improvement up there. And obviously, maybe it's also showing that the Helm charts are just a little bit more robust, I guess. I mean, they're purpose built for the use case that we're using it for, right? So
So for reference, I, as a developer, use some like pretty gnarly bash scripts to deploy, and I don't use Helm.
yeah, I guess we as developers, I guess most of the README in the GitHub repository used to be tailored to developers like us, and of course we're not shying away from just gnarly bash scripts and just opening a shell script and reading what's documented in there. But I guess if we look at the extended user base that we have right now, basically users stopping by in the Git repository and looking for ways to deploy this in a semi-production or even production environment or evaluation environment. Of course, they might shy away from this. They might not want to do that for a production deployment. So it's still, I'm super eager to see what people are doing and how people are using the product and what they are trying, and especially how they deploy it.
Yeah, I think our only bit of insight at this point is the issue that was filed against the repository, where somebody mentioned that they were using the deployment script and tweaked a number to have it deploy on the K3S instead of K8s.
Yeah.
So it seems like, I guess, I don't know if that was their specific use case, but maybe looking at the repository and looking at the documentation as it exists right now, users are being pushed more towards the idea of using the deployment scripts rather than something like a Helm operator. Something to consider. Yeah,
I guess it's going to be a process to see how people are actually really. I mean, I'm super interested to see how the majority of users deploy. That's something that I guess might also be kind of hard to track or get a feeling for, but at least we could at least see that through the kind of reports that we get or questions that we get. But also, I guess that might be a skewed statistic, because maybe one user group is just having more issues than others, or one user group is trying more complex things than others are. But I mean, time will tell. Let's see where this gets us. All right. Any more questions or comments that anyone has? Then if that's not the case, I would hand over to Foster again to wrap up, I guess.
Yeah, just thanks to everybody in-house, out of house, who have been helping out. GitHub issues, it all helps so much. And I think the big takeaway of this meeting is work on enablement, right? So documentation, making sure that people can get using the project as quick as possible. And then, working on issues and PRs and setting it up so that we have the structure moving forward. I think that's the biggest thing. That's some easy things that I think we can all take I mean, I'll just submit some issues, when I'm bored one night. So look forward to that. And yeah, thanks for all the feedback. It all helps a lot.
I was gonna ask one thing is, what are some things that you're kind of looking for the community to help out with? If there's a list somewhere, or just general things or very specific things. So how can we be of best use, essentially?
Matthias, Boaz, I would say that's something that we kind of are working on because we were so focused on getting this thing out to the community and working on documentation that now it's like, okay, well, what is something that the community wants to do? Do you want to work on a K8s operator, right? So I think, we'll start with maybe pushing some small issues out, things that, or some things that you think are wrong with the product maybe, or should be slightly changed. I think the general workflow was that we have this meeting, you come with all of your gripes and concerns, and then we kind of structure them for the next meeting, review it. If it sounds good, then we work on that from there. Because it doesn't really make sense for you to take on like a coding project with no real feedback from us too, right? So yeah, I think it's partially on us to get some work for the community. And then also, if there's something specific you want to work on, happy to hear it.
So generally, of course, especially as we talked about documentation, we have the DevDocs repo, which is at least containing quite a lot of markdowns to help people getting started. If you find something there that is not up to date or that isn't working out for you, of course, feel free to improve documentation. And generally, I would say if there are any third-party integrations to other platforms or services that you might be interested in, it's always a good idea to start with a feature request or an issue to open up discussion with us. We can run this by engineering and see if that is something that we might be interested to take up on ourselves, or if that's something that we would be interested in working together with the community, that the community creates it. So yeah, I guess the best point of starting this process is always file an issue. Let's have a discussion over there and see where this gets us. And of course, we're doing the monthly community meetings like the one we're doing right now, exactly for this reason, to basically file an issue. We have a look at it. We're thinking about it, and then we can talk about it in these meetings if people are interested.
I was also going to say that we are looking for another community manager. We have two. We're looking for a third. And then as we grow, kind of have that sort of structure. And last thing I will say is we're keeping RoxStars alive. So StackRox used to have RoxStars like every month. We have like a little swag gift bag. So people who contribute, who come on the calls, who are doing that stuff, we'll kind of all get together and say, hey, you're the RoxStar of the month. And maybe you'll get like a little, well, actually the swag's pretty good. I'm not going to lie. But yeah, so, honestly, anything is awesome. Even if you're just, if you see something wrong and you just say in the Slack, hey, I'm having issue deploying on Google, like that's great because, sometimes those things fall through.
Yeah, I think those points for the community, for some of the people who are going to listen to this recording, I know for sure at least one other group or project is actually interested in looking deeply at StackRox, and they were really eager waiting for StackRox to go open. So as they watch this, they might have feedback. I don't know what's the best way for people to then leave that feedback. Is it in Slack?
Slack will get the most direct response. You can email community@stackrox.com as well. And like Matthias said, there'll be a YouTube video. It'll have links to the slide deck. The slide deck has our emails. So we're pretty open and out there if you guys want to contact us.
Sounds good. When I guess, so this thing gets posted in YouTube and then has the links.
Yeah, I'll put a description with the notes of the meeting and what's it called? I'm blanking on the word for it. The captions and everything like that. So
all your wizardry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I got the lights for it and everything, so it fits.
I'm also going to add a couple of cents to this, which is similar to what Boaz has just said. I personally am looking into feedback from real users who are tinkering, who are using, who are playing, who are maybe thinking about alternatives or other ways, better ways to do things. I'm looking at this feedback. I don't care that much how I get it, whether it's an issue on GitHub or it's a message in the Slack channel. So I think that's something that I would be curious in receiving. So that's that I would welcome a lot.
Alex is a glutton for punishment, but no, I'd love to hear it. That's awesome. And trust me, I will be forwarding all the emails to you as things come up. Yeah, whenever I submit a documentation PR, it's going to come your way.
Sure thing. Happy to help.
Yeah, and for everybody on the call, the RoxStars, it's for everybody too. So just so you know, it's open. Anything else before we wrap up? We got 15 minutes left, but cool. So second Tuesday of every month, same time. Hey, how's it going, Lena? One of the key contributors to why we're open source in the first place. Spent a year with us? Yeah, I'm sure. I can't believe you're not sick of us yet.
It's kind of wild. Oh, I figured I would just lurk and see how this went. So
yeah, hopefully not too bad. I mean, you've been running the show for a year, so I figured we might take the reins eventually,
I think y'all are doing amazing. So you don't need me. I'm just, here to look cool.
All right. Thanks so much. Thanks for joining. Chris, thanks for the feedback. Appreciate it. And we'll see you all next month, second Tuesday, 12 p.m. Eastern. Be there. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, Michael.
Bye-bye, folks.